Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon sessions for the first day of our Digital Banking Asia virtual conference. We're opening this up with the Data and AI for the Win track, which will be a panel discussion on AI in banking. In this panel, we have Sunny Supriyadi, Senior Vice President, Head Pricing and Data Analytics at Maybank. We have Nikhil Singh Kushwaha, Digital Transformation and Senior Data Architect, OCBC, and our moderator, Kathirvan Manoharan, Head of Insights and Data for FSI Asia at Capgemini. Over to you, Kadi.
Thank you very much, Jed, for this one. Just a minute. Okay, so today we will be discussing about AI in the banking. And AI has been in the banking and financial services. It's been in the C-suite agenda for a long time now. If you look at the trend that has been happening in the financial services, there are a lot of AI-based applications that has been in the making, as well as being rolled out by banks. So with all that said and done, right? So if you look at what is happening today with the banks when it comes to I think there are a lot of activities which is related to ML that is taking place. If you look at the trend, ML is the most adopted form of AI implementation till date that we are seeing. And NLP and speech recognition implementations are growing, right? So those are things that are taking place with banks and financial services organizations. Customer experience is the most adopted use case, I would say. Around 43% of customers that we have spoken in the past, they have been taking customer experience as a major use case for all their implementation. And 75% of their use cases still has customer experience as one of the key drivers, right? So those are some of the trends happening in the industry. And if you look at which kind of functions are getting benefited from AI, I see front office functions, customer facing functions have adopted the most AI implementations that we have seen in the past. So there is a recent study that has come out a couple of weeks back where I could also find two-thirds of the customers are starting to trust AI products. There is a digital trust concern that is raised that is in the rise with all the customers. For them, digital trust is very, very important, and many of the customers in that report, they have said they will switch the brand if they are not clear about any data protection in the way that no organizations are handling data. And also there is no transparency in the ways of taking decision and things and so on. So breaking digital trust can lead to a lot of downside repercussions for all organizations. I see that we are talking about financial losses, customer attrition, brand impact. There could be regulatory fines, and there could be even break in partnerships that have been there for a long time, right? So with all this I see that there is a overall positive impact that is taking place because of AI. And I see that given that the trust is also improving with all the technologies coming up. So 10 years back, if you look at AI and AI solutions that are there in the market, they were very much limited to very basic use cases. Probably they might be doing some recommendation engine and things and so on. But now we have moved away from those basic use cases to large and bigger analytics use cases that are taking shape and form these days. Now there are end-to-end platforms that are available. There are open source frameworks that are available for any organization to actually make use of and take AI to scale. So all this not without challenges. If you look at AI implementation that is taking place in any organization, it is also undergoing a lot of challenges, right? So that's where we will be discussing more on that. To give some context around it, any AI implementation that is actually taking place now, can take anywhere between 6 to 9 months before it hits the production, even if it is a small use case. And compliance and privacy requirements are further complicating things. Last year, there was regulatory regulations that came from Europe, right? There lot of complications with respect to AI implementation in terms of transparency, explainability, and things and so on. AI and privacy regulations are becoming more complex and impacting any implementation that is taking place. Right. So these are some of the challenges. But for today, in our topic on AI in banking, we will be discussing about the challenges in scaling responsible AI applications, how are regulatory compliance and impacting AI implementation, and what is the role of AI and data in organizations' innovation agenda, right? So those are the things that we will be discussing today. So with that, I will just want to open this with the panel that we have today. I would like to start with Sunny. Sunny, from your experience, what are the challenges in scaling responsible AI applications from the banking perspective?
Great. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kathy, Nikhil, and everyone here. Yes, you put it very rightly and very nicely about the introduction on AI for business, be it for banking, financial services, insurance, or any other businesses for this matter. And when we're talking about challenges, of course, we can see it from different perspectives. We won't see it from people, process, or technologies. One by one, if we separate that one by one, we can have a look. What actually the biggest concern of one organization compared with others may not be the same. Some organization will say that my biggest constraint is technology because we have so many legacy systems and it is silos and it's not easy to change it. The mainframe is so outdated. We cannot utilize AI because our computational capability is not there yet. So if you want to use cloud, we still have to ingest our data up there. So that's the kind of things that maybe resonate to people that just started want to utilize AI. The reason being that I want to touch this first on technology because people may think that because there are a lot of engines out there now, there are vendors, services that can provide almost similar product utilizing AI, machine learning, deep learning, and so on and so forth as a recommendation, so that people can make decisions faster and quicker and more accurate. But sometimes people forget few things that they need to be prepared. Are their systems ready for that? That's number one. That's why I'm talking about technology first. And then the second one is if I want to do this, how can I proceed further? So we're talking about the process. If we are now utilizing a current state decision making process, may take about, say, 5 hours to a day, for example, from getting all the data, looking at the report, and then discussing things, and then making decision. With AI, we're talking about seconds or minutes. If we want to do that, we have to compare before and after, not just on one decision, but also we have to map it, the data, the people, also the decision making process, and so on and so forth. What is the comparison? So that is the first thing that people should be aware before they raise their cases. And then the second one is that is the question that I raise here is related with the business questions that we want to solve. And the last but not least, people. This is the crucial. I put it last, but actually this is the biggest. We're talking about change management here. We're talking about changing culture. Culture beats strategy. No matter what, if you don't address that properly, I've been living long enough, understand few hurdles on this. Failure as well, because of small thing. You didn't get buy-in from the people that actually work on it or people that actually using it. Yes, you have all the gadget, all the tools, all nitty gritty, bells and whistles, and so on and so forth. But if it's not being used, you know, and this is happening. Some people, I'm not talking about the organization where that's in the past. We have this model, we have this very good engine, but they put it in Excel again. The result of those put in Excel, so that they have a small, like a report, which is defeat the object. But this is a change of mindset. It's not easy. So I just wanted to address that. So we need to have a look on the people, process, and also technology. But underneath that is the data. Maybe Nikhil will add that on the aspect. Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Sonny. I think you made a very good point on people, process, technology. Just a follow up there on the, especially on people before I move to Nikhil. Do you see a trend where the AI scale is kind of slowed down because of availability of talent and people, especially on the ML engineering side? Do you see that?
Yes, indeed, indeed. You know, the precondition to have a very good AI is we have to ensure that will be a continuous improvement. It's not an event. Applying AI or any engine or any information or any transformation in this matter is not an event. It's not just one go and then that's it. No, there is a step that you need to understand. There's a movement going upwards. The challenge will be it's not going to be easier, put it that way. The behavior of the customers changing very rapidly. How can we capture that? The information that we capture also getting bigger, getting faster. And then when we're talking about how can we manage all of this information, how can we keep up with all the changes? You mentioned about the talent. I spoke with many colleagues here in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Thailand, in Australia, and Singapore even. One of the biggest hurdle is getting people. When I said getting people, is qualified, high quality people. This is what needed by the organization to be able to deploy their strategy correctly. Yes, we do have our organization, what we call as a university. We know that sometimes there's a bridge that collapse between the higher education and the request or requirement from the organization. We require this high, but sometimes the supply is not only scarce but also quality wise. It's not easy. Sometimes we have to import from other country. That's reality. I don't know. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, let's hear from Nikhil as well. Nikhil, I mean, not just on the talent, but I also would like your point of view on the challenges in scalable AI implementations. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy, and thanks, Sony. Sony, you have put together very aptly on what all specific challenges, especially banking organizations, are facing as of today. And when I say banking, I'm especially talking about the conventional banking systems that exist, right, from legacy perspective. So I'll take a point on the talent first, as Sony has mentioned briefly on that. So definitely bringing a right set of talent for doing right set of use cases or right set of project in a banking organization is always a challenge, and not just in Asia. I'm sure it's across the globe. Another part I would like to highlight on talent is I think a lot of banks as of today, especially conventional banks, they started working on a project where they want to reskill their existing talent, because obviously there is a scarcity of the talent in the market. So bringing new talents in and then try to reskill your existing talent, try to upskill your existing talent. So I think that's the way to go. That's the way to I see to make sure that we have enough talent to do go ahead with the digital banking transformations using AI and machine learning altogether. Other challenges that I see as of today is, as Sony has already touched base on the literacy inside the organization. So I think data, digital, specifically AI and ML literacy, that has to happen inside the bank. I'm sure a lot of banks are doing as of today, and I think, and it is not just for the working level. I think it should go up to the management, because once your management is on up that scale to understand the transformation from the basic, I think it really helps the organization to put together the transformation agenda and strategies for the near and the far future. Other part and challenges for operationalization AI aspect is, uh, I think it all depends on the data as well, because we know if you start wrong, your results is not expected, right? So data quality, data security, and privacy, these are the definitely one of the big concerns while doing the model training or model retraining or model testing altogether. So if we start on that note in a positive area where we actually put together the relevant data for the model to get trained across, I think the inference and results of the model would be actually towards the accuracy. Another aspect I think Sony has touched upon is as well on all the compute powers available in the legacy system versus as of today. And I would say thanks to the cloud infrastructure available, I am sure using cloud infrastructure, we can actually reach up to that scale which is required for a lot of the use cases altogether. Another aspect I see, which is one of the biggest challenge in terms of operationalizing AI use cases, is explainability, right, or interpretability, right. So these things, I think, as an organization, everybody has to think together, strategize, and put together in the transformation, so that the accuracy or the digital services provided by the banks are actually up there. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thanks, Nikhil. I like the point about in general about the conventional banks that you
Yeah.
have spoken about. Just wanted to extend that into a question, right? So, how are conventional banks leveraging AI to come out of their past era and then move into the innovation-led era, right? So, how are they leveraging AI and doing going digital and doing innovation?
I think that's the very apt question at this point of time of this conversation, right? Because we know that maybe a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, talking about data or digital transformation sounds buzzwords at this point of time, but definitely it is a reality, as we know, especially for conventional banks as well, because conventional banks especially are on a big digital transformation agenda as of today, and definitely AI or ML or especially data digital transformation is actually helping them become more digital in nature. Uh, and why they have to go digital, we all know that there are a lot of fintechs, neobanks, or smaller banks available, which are actually competing with the conventional banks in terms of the digital services they can provide versus a conventional bank, which is huge in size, and definitely they have to cope up to the expectation from the customer. And to the most of the point, right? As soon as you provide open to a new service to the customer is always habitual of that service, and definitely they are looking for what next. So from AI perspective, how AI is helping in making conventional bank more digital is, if we see, there are three aspects, right? Front front channel, back end channels, as well as your middle office. So front channels can be make more digital for the conventional banks, especially by using conventional AI, or by using chatbots, by using uh, audio assistant, voice assistant, by using video assistant as well. I have seen a couple of banks has implemented video pods where actually customer can go and chat and do exactly uh, humanless interaction for solving all the problems, right? One of the aspects is definitely customer 60, which a lot of banks as of today are working on, which actually give leverage to the banks to do humanless interaction with the customers and upfront understand the customer need before even customer reach out to you, right? So I think the aspect of digital transformation in this area and how AI is helping is providing something which customer wants upfront to the customer, so that they don't have to come to the branch or contact the contact center of the bank, right, to make it more digital interaction. And another aspect is, if we talk about middle office, if we put together some recommendations by the pattern of behavior or observation of the customers, how they actually spend their money, how they travel, where they go, there are a lot of data available. It's all about understanding the data and using the data in right aspect to make it more digital. to build the models in the AI to provide the recommendations for the product to the customer, provide the investment decisions for the customers. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thanks, Nikhil. Sunny would like to have your view also on this question. In
Yes,
my view, this
indeed.
is a very key question, given that everyone is actually talking about going digital and things. Let's hear your views as well. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, Maybank in Indonesia is one of the maybe conventional bank. We not compare with Neobank. Neobank is more digital. A few other banks that they don't even have a bricks and mortars in that sense. Everything's in cloud based and everything's digital. What about conventional bank? We need to have a look the history of that banks. Number one, number two, looking at the strategy that being deployed on that bank and what actually the focus of those strategy. Some banks are very focused on retail. Some banks are very focused on B2B. Either is working with the government organization or just normal company to companies. And when we're dealing with those aspects and understand the differences between retail and non-retail, then we can focusing on what actually this type of digitalization that we require for those market. For example, I can give you an example that exactly what happened in our bank. We in the retail have a segmentations of customers. I think most of the business have to get with that. Either macro segment or micro segment, which is smaller granularity. When we're talking about the macro segment, we have, for example, a pyramid where the bottom here is the mass banking, and then the second one is we can call it the privilege segment, and then the top one is the premier. The top one will not going to work with digital. I put it this straight away because this is where the segmentation of most of people here is a saga in the silver age, golden age, maybe around 40 and above, where they have deep pocket. We require a good RM, relationship manager, dealing with them. Give them digital front end or maybe mobile banking. Some people maybe the buy-in is only 5% to 10%. Most of the time they will require I just speak with them and then they're going to proceed for anything that I wanted. However, at the end of the scale, the mass banking, this is where the digital, the mobile banking app and everything else, it works very nicely because it's so cost effective. Imagine that you have 2 million customers in your bank, and then you don't have time to have any RM or any individual chat. You don't have that. It's too expensive. And then all the chat, instead of utilizing human, as Nikhil mentioned earlier, there's a chat box or robot that prepare with all. In the past, we're utilizing the RPA where everything is rule based. Not anymore. It is now training based, where everything is changed very dramatically dependent on the discussion. And even the language, the NLP is taking place in this one because there is a lot of unstructured data. So by utilizing this sophisticated engine, we can have a look at, maybe this is the best for my segment. So when we're talking about digitalization, we need to look at the, assess the situation first. Is this suitable for my business or not? Because not everything can be solved immediately with AI, I guess. I think that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Sonny. I think both of you have touched upon key points, right? Nikhil spoke about humorless interaction, right? So, and we are speaking about making it more digital so that it is available for every customer before they even think about any banking services, right? It has to be readily available for them. So there is a data play in this entire gambit, right? So we are talking about not just the data that the bank is right now holding in their data centers and in their data warehouses and data lakes. We are talking about data that is coming from different dimensions of the customer, different applications that they have been using, and different places they have been to, different services they have been accustomed to, the different solutions that they have used in the past, right? So we are talking about multiple things. So Nikhil also spoke about customer 360. It means to me, not just banks data, but also bringing every other information about the customer to serve them rightly and justly, right? So that's what we are talking about. So with this data play, and there are a lot of regulations around that, and there are more complex regulations probably is coming in the near future. So how are we seeing all this compliance regulations impacting AI implementations, and what kind of solutions that you are implementing in your banks? Probably we'll start with Nikhil this time. Yeah, Nikhil.
Sure. So, Kathy, I think this is a very well put together question because we know in earlier times, regulation or regulatory authorities specifically, they were aware of the way the decisions were made because there was a frameworks in the bank, and on the basis of those regulatory frameworks, the decisions for what kind of service to be provided and how to prevent the data leakage or data security and privacy comes in place, right? But as soon as we talk about AI, we are talking about a humanless decision making here, and obviously there is a big concern across the globe on how these transactions would be complied with the regulatory authorities, and that's where the responsible AI comes in picture, right? Responsible AI. When we talk about responsible AI, there are four key principles for the responsible AI. First is whenever we, as I mentioned earlier, right? AI, one of the biggest aspect or operationalized aspect for AI is how we're going to make sure that there is a fairness available in the decision making, whether your AI models are biased in nature or not. So it comes with the preparation of data. It comes with uh, what kind of data we use to train those models, right? So there are a couple of characteristics of responsible AI which actually plays the role here, right? First is fairness, as I explained already. Second is transparency. So definitely the regulatory authority, they wanted to understand how all these things works in a banking environment, which is more regulatory in nature, right? So transparency and explainability comes in place, right? Another point is how we are making sure the data is with the security or privacy of the data is actually maintained or contained within the regulatory impact, right? So these kind of things actually play a big role in how we should be using AI and to follow the compliance and regulatory requirements. So yes, answer is definitely responsible.
Thank you, Nikhil. Sunny, your views, please.
Yes, in Indonesia, I think most of the banks or financial services here only utilizing AI in the last, I think, maximum 5 years ago. Some of the job is not available or not even exist. Then now suddenly, appear everywhere. Uh, Dealing with compliance, dealing with framework of legal and also with regulators require a lot of update in terms of understanding the rules and regulation, because almost every year there's a bit of update on rules and regulations, and also regulators explain that in the past it may be okay, now it's not okay. And one of the example is talking about privacy data. In the past, they say, yeah, maybe it's okay. And now, no, you cannot do that. You cannot save it or keep your customers' data for a certain period of time. Yes, in the past, you can keep it for 10 years, for example, but not anymore without the consent of the customers. That's one of the small regulations that it didn't happen a few years ago, and suddenly using all basically it's try to protect the customer. That is the essence of it, and I'm agree with that. We in the bank, also Nico mentioned that it has to be acted responsibly. We have our own auditing process. We have our own governance body that looking after or who actually have access on the data, how long you are utilizing this data, and what machine or engine that you are putting all this data, and that kind of information that required by the governance team. I'm also part of the leads of leading the governance team. So in that sense, we need to have a look on what actually the engine that we have. This is coming into the explainability and also talking about the bias. There's a lot of engines here. uh, Nikhil mentioned about fairness. This is what happened. One of the case, maybe it is quite progressive ideas in the past, but not anymore now. We're talking about gender equality, postcode, locations, and how big is your pocket in my bank. That discrimination on that happen. When I say discrimination, this is affecting who can get what. That or output bias, sometimes we don't realize that because engine A providing input for the engine B providing input into engine C, and so on and so forth. And then the outcome is the NBO, next best offer, or maybe any suggestion that prescribed for certain segment. It's not easy. It's not easy, but this is going to be a challenge in the future. That if you're not prepared with that, that may be, haunted back you in a few years' time, because the regulators will keep up with that sooner or later. I think that's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. I think it's an interesting point, right? So, the last year regulation that Europe has released on AI regulations, they spoke about a couple of things. One is actually on data governance and management around that, right? So that's one thing. Second is about the privacy consent that you have touched upon, right? So that's a key point that there is a lot of emphasis on that. So it means before processing any customer's information, you need to have the consent in place, and you need to have the purpose of the execution or purpose of the processing in place before we can use it in your any of your AI engines, right? So which is what is making it a little more complex. So with this, I think if you add all the sovereignty complexities into it, I think it explains why organizations are not actually able to scale from tens and hundreds of models to probably thousands and more on, right? Kind of in the industry, people are talking about everyday AI and AI in everyday applications and things and so on, right? So for that, there is a mass scale required to be happening in the organizations, for which the underneath foundation needs to be in place. That's what I also understand. So with all this, how are you addressing the scale, right? So what kind of measures are you taking in your organizations, Nikhil and Sony, right? what what can be done for the audience here to scale models in a way that it can be more innovative and it can support their use cases in the future.
Sure. So I'll take this up first. Uh, I think, Kathy, this problem actually existed for a couple of years already, and because we know, right, banks are heavily regulated in their nature itself, and every region, every country has its own data residency and data sovereignty laws. And when your bank is actually spread across multiple regions or multiple entities, this is always a case where you need to factor in the data sovereignty aspect, which data can be moved to which place, and can all the data come to a group area itself or not, or what data has to contain in which place, right? So I think the most, or I would say as of today, because I would think that regulatory authorities, as Sony earlier mentioned, that some of the rules put together by them a couple of years ago, as of today, they say no, these rules are not applicable. I think there are new rules coming up. So there is a upskill in the regulatory authorities as well. They are also learning from the market conditions across GDPR, PDPA regulation, which actually affects us data sovereignty altogether, right? So I think this is something I would say it's gonna take a couple of years. for even for the public cloud vendor to understand, because a lot of public cloud vendors are providing data sovereignty as a service right now. So the offering is that, okay, you put multiple entities data, and we're going to make sure that it stays in the region, it doesn't leave the region, but you still be able to bring the value out of the data, the insights out of the data. So if you see, right, AI generally have two kind of mechanism to perform the insights or recommendation, right? First is federated learning, as and second is unfederated learning. So for cases where data cannot be consolidated one place, definitely we can take benefit of unfederated learning, where insights will be generated at the entity or the regional location, and that the combined result of that entity can be used as the inference or scoring of the model altogether. So I think to solve the problem of mass scaling of data, and data is not at center place, uh, I think these kind of unfettered learning works along the way.
Thank you, Nikhil. I think thanks for that inputs on federated learning and things, right? So, do you see from the engineering ML engineering perspective, do you see there are solutions there, homegrown or in the market? Do you think we have sufficient solutions that are allowing organizations to scale ML models to thousands, probably, if not beyond that?
No, so definitely, I mean, so I think this area will be it's a evolution phase for AI, and we all talk about AI every day. But tomorrow we see something another coming up. We know open AI is something people talk about a lot nowadays, and I think it's an evolution phase for that sector altogether. And over the period of time, definitely the scale would be very much higher. Maybe today we are sitting on hundreds of model. Tomorrow, I'm sure we'll be sitting on thousands of model, serving different customer in different ways. But yeah, I was, as of today, there is a problem, or there is, I would say, a mindset limitation in terms of regulation to scale those factors. But as I mentioned earlier, this is the evolution phase, and definitely we're going to cross this phase and move to a broader area where actually we can generate the insight from a lot of different areas and actually put the value towards the customer.
Thank you, Nikhil. Sonny, your views on this topic?
Yeah, scalability is one of the hot topic, I guess, in most of the senior management when we're dealing with the BOD meeting all the time. How can we scale this up? How can we scale this up? If it's good enough, then let's scale it up. So my first instinct is that, judging from what happens in the past, start small. Before you scale it up, start small. Ensure that you can contain anything. If it's unsuccessful, it's just there and learn from it. If it's successful, then you try to scale it up. Of course, if we're successful with a small project, small cases, number one, we have very good confidence, and that's important for the morale of the team. You have that yes, we did it, and that positivity is important when you try to scale it up. That team can be agent of change. Oh, I've done this in a smaller scale. Let's do it in a OCPC or mapping. The same thing. We are a massive organization with we've got groups that dictate what actually can do or you cannot do. Uh, there is an autonomous process as well, where we in a smaller branches or smaller scale of the places can do that. But when we're talking about a foundation of the strategy or the implementation of the strategy, then it has to be coming from top down. No questions about that. Simply because of we want to speak in the same language. We want to have homogeneous or standardized process. Maybe if we are as a group utilizing one vendor or one engine or software, then it is much better, and also maybe it's cost effective as well, because we got bigger discount. But again, the implementation is another matter, because Maybank or OCBC or DPS, whatever it is, when they try to spread up that implementation into much larger scale, you have to ensure that the partner of those software or engine or whatever it is, infrastructure, for example, within your country, within your area, is able to do that. You know, sometimes it's easy to say, but in reality, sometimes the language problem. Not everyone can speak English, for example, and then that becomes a hurdle, a bottleneck, and so on and so forth. So, small thing. Start with that, and then scale it up.
Thank you, Sonny, for that start small, scale fast kind of philosophy. I think that is working. I would say, especially in AI world. The only concern that people who are kind of taking that approach is probably they are trying to go too narrow on the small use cases. They probably don't have a larger picture, right? So do you see at what point in time they just have to just move away from small and then go kind of big bang, or do you see the
Yes,
trend
I mean,
like that?
in the transformation process, there's a stages. We call it wave one, wave two, whatever it is. You can, phase one, phase two, stage one, phase. That that is important. Before you scale it up, you need to understand how can I bite, bite size rather than eating the elephant as a whole. And this is a simple thing, but not everyone can understand it immediately. The aha moment in one organization may be very quick, in other organization maybe it's slightly longer, and that need to be understood, I guess. That the background slightly different and so on and so forth. So yeah, I guess we need to put it in the phases. If you are successful with that, move again. If you are not successful, learn from it. That happens.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so having spoken about challenges and we spoke about the strategies to scale, I think we can't skip this part of investment and budget that is required for this, right? So, how do you see in your organizations, because digital demands a lot of transformation programs require a lot of budget, especially coming in from AI innovation, right? So, where do you see that the investments are gaining more traction from your perspective, Sony? And then we'll also hear from Nikhil.
Yeah, I think budget can be constrained, or budget can be giving us a oomph, and that depends on how you're going to see it. Number one is show the value, without which the CFO will not going to give you anything. So show the value. How did you do that? A lot of cases. Sometimes we require a small project, pilot project or POC. Sometimes proof of concept. We got the idea, but we don't have any vendors that are able to provide this capability immediately. It's not instantaneously. Okay, we have to customize that. Okay, customize it. And if you want to customize it, how are you going to do that? Is there any consultant or maybe vendors that provide us with the customized item? Okay, do that. What's the impact? Okay, very good impact. The frontliners can make decision very quickly. That's one of the most important things. Normally, it takes time, back and forth to head office, and then back again to them, and it takes time. But now they can do it immediately. That process is not just looking at the top line or bottom line numbers, but also we need to looking at the throughput, meaning that what is the constraint that they face so far in terms of timeline, and then suddenly from 2 hours, 3 hours, it becomes 2 seconds. That liberates a lot of time, and that need to be calculated as well. So not only from the capability of frontliners getting a business, but also from efficiency of getting a process much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sony. Nikhil, your views on this?
So I think Sony has touched upon a very important aspect, right? How to show the value. Otherwise, obviously, the senior management going to say that I don't see anything in that. And why are you asking for it? Because we know the transformation is not a small thing. It's expensive aspect that all the banks are going through as of today. So first, try to prove that you can actually generate a value out of it, and then you have to showcase that value in terms of first is ROI, return on investment, and the second is how much actually it is helping the bank employees as well as the customer altogether, right? And then the prioritization and reprioritization comes in aspect, right? So first is you show the value. Second is you try to bundle it, as Sony mentioned, that if it is available out of the box from a vendor, I think that's good to go. But if it is not, if we have to do build internally, we need to see the capability. We need to see how to scale that up, because obviously it is not just for showcasing to senior management. When the time comes for operationalization, you need to make sure that we have all the capabilities in terms of operationalizing that, in terms of technology, in terms of the strategy, in terms of process in the bank. So I would say that maybe next year or next couple of years, there will be a lot of investment in AI space altogether by the banks. And it will be more towards how much value it is generating for the customers. And if we can actually find out, quantify that value in terms of numbers, I think that's what the senior management is looking for.
Yeah. Are you also seeing, Nikhil, from your interaction with your own teams and also probably with your peers in the industry? Do you see that the investment growing towards engineering side of it or innovation side of it? Uh, do you have any comments and views around that where it is going towards?
So definitely, as we know, I won't call AI as a new, but the implementation aspect of AI is definitely a couple of years ago only for the conventional bank, right? So there are a lot of work has been done in terms of innovation. So yes, innovation is definitely comes first. First, you have to innovate the idea. Then again, we go back to the previous question. You innovate, then you prove it, that generates a value, and it is something good for the bank in terms of helping the customers out, helping to scale the resources out and other stuff, right? And then definitely, as soon as you innovate, you need a bigger engineering team who can actually implement it. And luckily, I'm from a bank which actually are doing a lot of engineering work in terms of AI and ML. And recently, we have contributed to the open source community as well. So this is something comes from your engineering aspect. So yes, open for other people to use inside the bank and outside the bank. Yeah.
Thank you, Nikhil. I think these are good insights from both Sunny as well as Nikhil from you both. Thanks for this. In the beginning, I said AI has impacted positively the entire society and all the communities that we have been living, right? So, not without challenges is what we also declared in the beginning itself. I believe we touched upon those challenges and we heard the methods and strategies Sony and Nikhil has been using in their banks to overcome some of this, right? And these insights, I find this very much aligned to what my customers are doing in the region. Thanks for sharing this again. Over to you, Jed. Jed, over to you for the wrap up.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Sunny, for that great discussion. Yeah, if you have any questions for any of our speakers here, you may reach out to them directly. We'll be hanging out on the platform when we can answer any of your questions. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you, guys. Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, that is a wrap for our third track of the day, the Data AI for the win. See you all in the next track.